In this unit, we'll be dealing with conflicts of interest and ethics in financial markets. In lecture 1, we'll deal with soft commissions and inducements. So firstly, I wanted to talk about soft commissions and inducements. So if you look at a conflict of interest, we've discussed this before, it is a detriment to investors. So if your broker has a conflict of interest when dealing in your account, it is detrimental to you because then he would, for example, suggest a product that may not be suitable, but he is getting paid to suggest. So market rules generally aim to take out or control these conflicts of interest. So when you act as a financial services provider and there's an incentive or a reward that could be a conflict, for example, if you are representing various financial services providers and you are offering products on behalf of 3 different product suppliers and one pays more commission than the others, your reward needs to be disclosed to the client and the client needs to consent and say, okay, I understand that you will be paid more from A than B and C, therefore you have an incentive obviously to give me a product from A over B and C. So a soft commission here is a good or service rendered by an intermediary. So what happens is your intermediary manages securities on behalf of a client. And in return, in exchange for giving them assurance, the intermediary gives them a minimum amount of business. So you get kind of a commission from the intermediary. So for example, if you are getting a life insurance product from your broker, they will be getting a portion of that money that you're paid directly to them before it goes to the supplier. So in some countries, you're allowed to pay brokers higher or lower in exchange for goods and services. But when you do this, you can be prejudiced. So in South Africa, it's not allowed. What you pay your broker is generally standardized and it is regulated by legislation. So it's a controversial issue and there have been many papers written on it and it's subject to a lot of criticism. In fact, in some countries it's not allowed at all because it can give an incentive to favor one client over another or to favor one provider over another. So some of the main points of criticism that I've found in various articles I've summarized for you here. So it says it represents income generated from clients' funds, but no benefit is passed to the client. So the fund manager is getting a benefit, but not passing a benefit to the client necessarily. It also represents churning. If you remember what we discussed with churning, we'll discuss it again later. It's an inducement to overtrade to generate commissions. So for every trade you make, you could be generating commissions. So it kind of makes you overtrade a little bit. Then it says that the investment manager could be tied to a specific authorized user, even if their services are inferior. So we're not saying that an authorized user has inferior services. What we are saying is that a client may be looking for something that user doesn't offer, but the broker will provide it from that user because they are getting an incentive. And this also restricts competition between the authorized users. Next, there's less incentive to negotiate lower brokerage or negotiate on fees. Generally, when you go to a broker, you can cap your fees or negotiate your fees to something that you're happy with. But using soft commissions, there's less incentive to negotiate these fees. Some countries regard them as a form of bribery or a kickback. And then lastly, it says the independence of a broker is even more compromised when there is a soft commission agreement. And it says there in that article that they do not deal at arm's length, which means they have a bit more of a relationship than they should. In America, I've put their legislation. Their Securities Exchange Act limits the use of soft commissions. In the United Kingdom, it says that you need to manage conflicts of interest fairly. So this doesn't necessarily give you any indication on their feelings towards soft commissions, but it does state that if it is unfair, it is a conflict of interest. So the basic principle in South Africa, we go back to the common law, so there's no legislation, is that the principal, which is the client, is entitled to the benefit of care and skill which the agent, the investment manager, undertook to exercise on their behalf. So you are entitled to the benefit of care and skill that they agreed to give you after all material facts have been disclosed. Is a soft commission a material fact? Well, I would say so. If you are working for a specific company, or if you are getting more commission from one company than another, I would say that is a material fact and needs to be disclosed. According to the common law as well, the agent needs to account to the principal for profit made or rewards received, but also any savings made. So it's not necessary to tell the client your salary, but it is necessary to tell them that you are getting 0.5%, 1%, 3%, or whatever it is from their investments. If this is not met, the principal, which is the client, can claim profits from the agent and terminate the relationship. This is a breach of contract, so it allows you to terminate. And then we get to the legislation. The FASE Act provides codes of conduct. You will remember last week we went through the different codes of conduct, and it makes provision for incentives given.